Hello, everyone. Welcome to Workforce Gaming. I am Brad, here with Doug.
Hi.
It's time for our third part, the finale of our Game of the Year 2017 discussion.
Yay.
So, if you missed parts 1 and 2, you can always go back and find them somewhere else. But this is kind of our cumulative, summative, wrapping everything up, putting a whole bunch of different stuff together. So, our first
Yeah.
part was my top 5, second part was Doug's top 5. This is
Yep.
just going to be kind of us talking about some of the things we liked and didn't like from this year. And then ultimately at the end, we will decide, because we haven't discussed this at all, any of these
No.
actually.
No,
We
we
will
have not.
decide our game of the year collectively as Workforce Gaming at the end. So if that's all you're really interested in, feel free to skip to like 10 minutes before the end of this, however long this ends up being.
Yeah, good
Uh,
point.
but again, we don't know what each other has come up with for these, so that's kind of fun for both of us as we go through here. And
Mhm.
we've got 6 or 7 categories, different things we're going to talk about as we go through here. And the first one is my favorite one, I think, out of all of these, and that is your best ever something. So
Yes.
what that means is picking some game from 2017 that had the best ever blank and whatever that
Mhm.
may be to you. So Doug, I'm gonna let you start it. So your best ever something from 2017 is
My best ever super obscure movie reference is for the
and that is a super obscure thing to look for,
goes
okay?
to The Evil Within 2 for like referencing the cell way more than I thought it would.
The Cell is
this
like, okay, that was like an early 2000s horror movie, correct?
Yeah, it's an early horror. It's an early 2000s horror movie starring. Oh God, what the heck is her name? It's like Vince Vaughn and oh shoot, I can't remember
It
her name. She's
I feel like it's somebody who had like no, it was like they were famous and then they started acting or
no,
something
yeah,
like
she's a
that.
famous actress. No, singer. I can't remember her name. Doesn't matter. That movie is not good, but it has very. It's basically the whole thing is they go inside the mind of a killer and they're trying to help him and like learn where his murder victims are. And there's in the movie they have like these really humongous large red curtains that they use as like tissue muscle and blood vessels and stuff. And then Evil Within 2 just has them all over the place. And I was just like, yeah.
I know what you're doing.
I know what you do. It's like, oh, and it's kind of fun because a lot of Evil Within 2 is sort of based on a similar concept. So it's just like, it's kind of neat seeing like those things that are just like, I can't believe anybody saw that movie, much less felt it was powerful enough to actually put into anything ever.
Felt the need to invest this much into referencing it for
Yeah,
one
exactly. It's
specific person who will play this game.
yeah, me. That might be honestly, it's like in the beginning, and maybe that completely changed my opinion of that game too. So which is why I like it so much.
If they didn't reference the cell, this game's like a 6. But
Yeah,
because they did,
did
it's up
yeah.
there in my game of the years.
It's a hearty 8.5.
So my best ever, slightly more serious, is
Yeah.
sound and sound design for Hellblade.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god! If it wasn't for virtual reality and VR having come out the year before this, I don't think I ever would have felt as immersed in a game as I did with that. That
Yeah.
game makes you paranoid. Just because as you've got, I played it with, like my super fancy headphones, and as
Yeah.
you're doing it, the voicing and the way the voices are set up to be talking to you, it doesn't seem real. And there were a couple times where like I like had to look behind me just to make sure, like, did my wife come downstairs and is trying to talk to me, or is somebody like from this game telling me something else weird that I need to know?
Yeah.
And
That's
just,
why yeah, I'm not gonna play
oh, and
that game.
just the way the voices talk on top of each other, and you're like, oh my god, you all need to shut up. And even in combat, you'll be fighting somebody like, oh, you're gonna lose, he's gonna get you, like, oh, why aren't you attacking? So you should do that. And you've got like 4 voices yelling at you about what you should do as you're fighting somebody, and it's crazy the way it makes your, like, messes with your mind as you're playing this.
Yeah.
It very much feels like the audio version of VR.
That's oh dang. I kept hearing that over and over again. And like the trailers for the game, if you watch the trailers with headphones, there's some like interesting stuff with that. And I'm really curious how they play with that in the game. And apparently they play with it a lot.
Oh yes, very much. Yeah, and I played. There was like one section just out of curiosity. I unplugged the headphones and played maybe like 20 minutes without headphones. This is one of those games. It's exactly like a VR game where, yeah, if you took the VR out of this, that's a very average game. But in VR, oh my god, it's amazing. It's the
Yeah.
same thing with this. If you play without headphones, I can see why. I could see why some people are like, it's not that great. Well, my first question would be, did you play it with headphones? Because if you didn't, then yeah, it's probably just all right.
Yeah, I feel like especially like sound design stuff, like I always feel like when I kind of like appreciate it when it's a game, but it's never something I feel necessary. But it's kind of cool to see. I don't think many games outside of like rhythm games
Yeah.
like really lean heavily on audio on sound design. So that's actually really cool. I'm really curious. I'm actually,
You should try it.
I will try it eventually when it's on sale again.
All right, our next three are our didn'ts. So if you
Yes.
saw our top five, there's some games that I feel like are kind of omitted for both of us that I feel like could probably end up getting into game of the year type stuff from other people.
Yeah.
But there's some didn'ts that we have. So our first one is the best game you didn't play. So a game you think probably would have been a top five game for you, would have been in that discussion, but you
Yeah.
just didn't play it.
Oh, are you asking me? Am I going first?
Yeah, you're going first because I'm asking the questions, so you have to go first.
I know this is like I didn't play Gravity Rush 2. Like I feel like would have been in my list, like for sure.
Okay.
And I fully acknowledge that's probably not even a great game. But I really, really, really love the first one. I just never got around to playing the second one. And I was thinking like I played like a little bit of the demo. I wasn't totally feeling it, but I was like, I don't know why I didn't. I think it just hovered at whatever price point it was just for like too long. Like it was just like little like $10 more than I was willing to pay for it. So like
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, so I that's the one I've just been like, oh, shit. I really should have played that. That's like why I wanted to finish up Evil Within 2 before I did my top five. Because like this might end up on my top five. I should finish this. And like Gravity Rush 2 is the one that's out there. I'm like, crap. If I played this, I did. Yeah, I know I love it. I don't know why I haven't played it. I just
Yeah.
didn't.
That's one of those games where I have no interest in, but I know you would like that. But I think the point with this is I think the same thing with me is there's those games where it's like it comes out at 60 and I feel like after the first month, if it's been
Yeah,
out for like 3 or 4 weeks, I'm not paying $60 for it now. I need to wait
yeah,
for that to drop a bit. And I
yeah.
have the same thing with mine, which is Near Automata. It was
Oh, yeah.
it was
Shit.
$60, and then I was busy with, I think Horizon came out at the same time, so I was busy with that for a long time, and
Yeah,
then it's just like, oh, it's $45 everywhere still, and it's been out for like 8 months. So I waited 8 months. I can wait another 2 or 3, but
yeah.
that's a game that just everything in that game. It's got robots, it's got space stuff, it's a platinum game. Like everything about that game is one of those things where it's like I should love that game.
Yeah, in like a reverse, in like some sort of alternate universe, you definitely should have been able to review that one because I wasn't super hot on it. But
Yeah.
like the things that are super strong on that in that game are the things that I know you really like in games. Yeah,
Yep.
you would. Yeah, I think that definitely. I think I would have kicked out at least one of the other two games for sure on your top five list. It's I yeah that's a yeah shit dude you should play that. Let's give you my copy. I don't want it. The game's not
Yeah,
that good.
I did
It's
forget that you played
fine.
that, and you weren't too keen on that one.
No, it's just it has issues, but it's like one of those things. Like if you can overlook those issues, it's an awesome game. And it's just like it's just had those things that bug me personally, so I just couldn't. Yeah, the game's awesome. Well, it's okay. You would like
For a certain person.
it. Yeah,
Our next didn't is and again this is another one where I feel like some of these probably would end up on that list, but just we are pretty, I don't know, strict's the right word, but pretty much of the
picky.
understanding that you have to finish a game for it to be
Yeah,
game of the year. If you didn't finish
yeah,
a game, it's hard to say that's one of the best games of the year. So this is just best game you didn't finish.
yeah.
I'll do mine first, I guess, on this one since you want to not do it first every time. Mine's pretty simple. Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It came out in the middle of December and it's long as hell. And I'm not through it yet. So the first 15-20 hours are amazing. It's that even the tutorial has these crazy set piece moments where you're just like, oh my God, this feels like the end of the game. And I'm an hour and a half into it. And just it's fun to play. It's a great game on the Switch to just be able to pick up and go, oh, I'm just running across this big old forest. I guess I'll just kind of pick this up and turn on the TV for a minute while I'm running across the forest. And
Hmm.
it's a ton of fun, and I'm excited to finish it in the next 4 to 5 months.
Yeah, I feel like this one is like generally hell for JRPGs.
Yep,
But the game
because
I like didn't finish. It's only like 5 hours long. Just um, but it's a VR game. I picked up Static, which is a
oh
yeah. I think you played the demo for this. Did not like it at all. It's basically it's a puzzle
yeah
box game where your
yeah
character. It's a
no
yeah. It's essentially it's a puzzle
yeah
box game
no
where your hey shut up for a sec. It's where your hands are like essentially in a puzzle box, and the controller, every single puzzle, the controller does something completely different. And basically, what it is the character that you're playing as has their hands stuck inside a box. So as you're holding the controller, it sort of has that same sort of like So as you like move the controller around, you move the box around. You're sitting there pressing buttons, trying to figure out what the buttons do, and and try to solve this puzzle box. It's got a really neat aesthetic. It's very similar to Portal. There's like you're like in a testing facility. They ask you like really weird questions you have to answer at like certain points of the game. We're like, oh, interesting, you answered that way. Very similar to like Until Dawn psychology scenes where
Oh,
they're asking
cool.
you to like pick things from a book. Um, it's a really neat game. It's just a VR game, and it's kind of I again every time I pull out the VR, I really enjoy what I play. It just takes a while to pull out the VR, and
Yeah.
so it's just easier to sit down and turn on my console and play Evil Within 2 rather than like sitting and playing on the VR and playing static. I got
Should
really far
play.
on that too. I don't know. I just didn't get to like last 2 or 3 levels. So
Huh.
yeah,
Should play Count the Times Doug mentions Evil Within 2.
it's really
So
good.
our last didn't is kind of our one negative one here on the list,
Yeah,
and that's best game you didn't like.
yeah,
Where the idea with this is there are some games where you can look at and you can see it and you go, man, that is a good game, but I did not enjoy playing that.
yeah.
And that's kind of the idea with this. So I think I'm about to get really mad. But what was your best game you didn't like?
Well, it's a tie.
Oh.
It's a tie between Cuphead and Legend of Zelda.
So we need to take a moment really quick here before you get into this and point out that this is legitimate. I know you don't like both of these games.
Yeah.
You are not trying to be an ass.
No, it's Cuphead's real quick. That game is gorgeous. It is like the mechanics are really good. It's a really well made game. I think it's too hard. I think it's too hard to the point of not being fun. I got all the way up to the final boss in that game, which in the final boss takes about 10 minutes to beat, and I just couldn't do it. And I was just like, and I sort of realized like as the farther I got in the game, the least fun I was having. While the scenes were gorgeous, the mechanics were fun in and of themselves. I just found it too difficult. You can call me a scrub or whatever, but like I just found the game it was just a little too difficult.
I
And that was
can
it. Like if that game was just a tiny bit easier. Like I played through Bloodborne and Dark Souls. Like I don't mind difficult games. That's just it's not the type of difficulty I like.
Yeah,
Um,
I could see that. That's the only reason I haven't
yeah,
touched that game yet. Is just because I know it's difficult and I know I don't really have the patience for that at the moment. So
yeah, and the final boss is like real BS. So it's like it's yeah, just I just stopped being fun after a while. Like I think I like realized like I just put it down because like I am not having fun with this, even though I loved everything else about it. Um, and then Zelda, I acknowledge, is probably the best game of the year. Everything about it is incredible. I think it just didn't resonate with me because I didn't find the world interesting.
mhm.
So if you don't find that world interesting, then you're not going to enjoy exploring it. You're not going to enjoy like existing in it or doing neat things in it. So even though the things I was doing were neat, the characters I were meeting were interesting looking. Um, the dialogue in that game isn't particularly great either. Um, but I just it didn't resonate with me. I think that maybe just because I was coming off Horizon and coming off Night in the Woods or coming off these games where I felt like really connected to that world. For
Mhm.
whatever reason, I just didn't in Zelda. And so that's like I liked the idea of it. I think it was just I would rather explore like any other world except for the one they present to be using those mechanics, using those systems, using those everything else. But I just don't want to fight goblins for like the 50th time. I think that was just about it.
Yeah, I can see that. I think those are all valid complaints, and I think every game has that. Can you look past this point?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
everybody has their things where it's like, you know what, frankly, I can't look past blank. And I could
Yeah.
understand, the enemy types are not overly varied. The story is it's Zelda.
Yeah, I
And
mean, even for Zelda, it's pretty bare bones.
yeah, so uh, as irritating as that is, I understand.
Yeah, it's like I acknowledge how good these games are. It's just they weren't my thing because I'm with just weird little things that just kind of completely turned me off from it. So, yeah.
Yeah, understandable. Our next category here,
Wait, no, what's
best.
yours?
Oh, I didn't do mine.
No, you did do
We
yours.
talked about we talked about two games. So in my mind, one of those was mine, and I love Zelda and didn't play Cuphead. So I guess in my mind that we already did that. But
No.
anyway, so mine is Rhyme, um,
Oh,
which is one of those games where again, looking at it, I would sit here and say, I don't think you ever got to it. Did you?
no, because it's still $30. Like
Yeah,
I need to be like 15 or something.
that's another one where I think I could look at it and go, this would be a top 5 game to Doug. Doug
Hmm.
would love this game, and there's people who do love that game, but I was bored out of my mind the whole time I played that, and it looks pretty, and it's one of those where it's like it's got all this inspiration from games I like, and I love Journey, and I love all those other games like this, and just nothing.
What I mean, I guess what was boring, because that's kind of thing, like it's kind of like maybe jumping at 30, like what makes it boring, I guess.
I didn't do anything.
Like, was
Like
it just not challenging? Was there
it,
just
it
not?
wasn't challenging. The story was a lot of like left open to interpretation, which I'm fine with, but it was lots of like I don't know, I couldn't for some reason every time I sat down to play it I just could not get into it. The
Yeah.
gameplay was kind of boring to me. I just I couldn't connect with what was going on. I couldn't figure out what was going on. It's just like, okay, I drifted up on an island and now I'm on the island. Cool. Oh, now I'm climbing this thing. Cool.
Did you
And it was
finish
just
it or?
yeah, I finished it.
Oh, okay, all right.
I don't know. I don't know. Whatever reason, I just could not get into it. And again, games like Ico, Last Guardian, I love all those games. And in my mind, I was like, okay, this is going to be kind of a similar thing, and it wasn't. And
Yeah.
I think maybe it was long too. It was like 5 or 6 hours, and I think maybe if that was in half, I think I might have been more interested. But especially by the end, it was just like, okay, I get it. Let's get to the end of this. Let's wrap this thing up. I'm done.
Yeah, that's a bummer, because that's like one of the games that like got me to buy a PS4
Yep.
way back in the day, was because I knew Ryan was coming.
Yep. And again, I truly believe that would be probably close to your top five
Yeah, probably
if
my
you'd played it.
tied
But
in my five, where Edith Finch and
yeah,
Night in the
you would have had a
Woods,
three-way tie there at the end.
yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, mine's nowhere near as I think appalling to people as yours are.
No, I don't think a lot of people liked Ryan.
I feel like some people did, didn't they?
They did. No, I mean it like got okay. I think a lot of people would definitely echo your sentiment in that, like, it's just not challenging at all. So there's not a lot there. Um,
I feel like people like that. Oh well. Anyway, best new thing. So this is anything in any game that's just new, something you hadn't seen before, something that looking at you're going, hey, I don't feel like anybody's tried this before. Mine is the backtalk mechanic in the new Life is Strange prequels. Which is
weird.
really, really cool. So one of the cool things about Life is Strange, the original one, was the time travel and the ability to go back and redo conversations if you didn't like how it played out.
Yeah.
And I really like that mechanic. So Before the Storm introduces this thing called backtalk, which basically you can try and argue your way into a situation, which as Chloe is the main character who's that argumentative teenager, basically you can look and you can have the option to accept what this person's saying and kind of find an alternate way to solve this problem, or you can do this backtalk thing, which is essentially just starts an argument with the character. Well, they'll say something and then you have to pick out like a word or phrase that they used and then pick something to argue back with them, and you can basically get through different situations just by arguing with somebody.
Oh, that's kind of neat.
Which in a Telltale style game, in a Life is Strange, those interactive story driven games is something I've never seen before, where it's like, okay, you can actively just argue with somebody and go, no, listen. And it was just kind of a cool way to take those games another step further, like the time travel was in the original Life is Strange. And it was an interesting twist on conversation mechanics that felt meaningful, that felt like I was doing something I hadn't done before.
Yeah. No. That's actually. Yeah, actually, I thought you were talking. Yeah, because I think Danganronpa also had like some sort of like new lying mechanic and stuff, which is something you don't see in those sort of games where.
Oh yeah, where you could, yeah. Well, okay, so the Danganronpa one is really cool, which is basically you can, instead of hitting X on a phrase that's the truth, you can say they were lying and then use that. And Danganronpa has a lot of cool little mini game mechanics that kind of similar. This one though I liked because it's more involved. Danganronpa is essentially just listening to a conversation, deciding, ooh, I could lie about that, done.
Yeah.
Whereas this is like a 4 or 5 stage, like I said something, they said something, I said something. You kind of choose the argument that fits that character and what that character's saying in the moment to really argue back against them.
Okay, that's cool. I did remember what mine was.
Excellent.
As much as I did not like this game at all, it'd be Doki Doki Literature Club. I'm not. It'd be getting into spoilers of what the game asks you to do, but it's definitely something I've never done in a game before. Definitely on the level of. I think one of my favorite video game moments is in Arkham Asylum when they make you think that your console is broken. It's you don't. Yeah, it's one of the fear effects. It's like the game basically like glitches out and then resets
No, I know, but
Um,
didn't Metal Gear Solid do that like way before that?
yeah, but
I'm just
yeah,
curious
no,
why you went to Arkham Asylum and not Metal Gear. That was more my
um,
concern.
because I think Metal Gear is like less I know it's still pretty acknowledgement of like the fact that you're playing on a PlayStation. But I think it's neat that it uses. I think Doki Doki Literature Club uses the system that you're playing it on in a really interesting way. And it was just something I'd never done before. Like I do not like that game at all. Played its entirety, but it definitely had some interesting mechanics in it that are spoilery. That made me use the computer in ways I had not done in the context of a video game. So I thought that's really cool.
Yeah, and thinking about what you were saying, and again, if you're curious about those spoilery things and not interested in that game, we do have a spoiler discussion up for that. But knowing what you're talking about, that is something interesting, and I think it's something that I don't think I've ever seen, heard of, or done before in
Yeah,
that way,
yeah, exactly.
which is cool. So, moving on.
Hmm.
This one's kind of a weird one. This one takes us out of 2017 a bit, and that's because, like we said before, we're cheap, and both of us don't
Yes.
like paying expensive prices for games. So,
Yeah.
uh, this one's the best game you played this year
Yes.
that wasn't from this year.
Yes.
So the going back and they're going, ooh, that's on sale. I meant to play that a while ago, which
Yeah.
maybe will be our game of the year we didn't play this year next year, but who knows? But anyway, so what was your game from not 2017 of 2017?
The one I finished was Nog. I really, really love Nog. There's a review
Nog.
for it. I don't
Oh,
want to
that's
talk
that
too much.
VR one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't even.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Nog. It's really, really cool. I really like puzzle box games. It's this awesome, very colorful puzzle box game that does like neat things with sound. It's very similar to Katamari, and it does a lot of really neat, weird, kooky things with VR and the puzzle box genre that I really liked. But the game I actually really want to talk about is Quantum Break. Um, I've been playing Quantum Break recently. I'm nearing the end, so I didn't completely finish it. That was just a neat game. I mean, I guess people did acknowledge it a few years ago as being a very cool game, but it is surprisingly much better than I thought it would be. It does some really kind of interesting things with um, using the TV show in the context of the game. There's like the villain is really neat because the villain is actually just a large corporation of like white collar workers that are all trying
Okay.
to stop you.
Hmm.
And the story has some like really interesting. The villain, it actually makes sense why the villain is doing the things that they're doing, which I don't see in a lot of games or in general. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, the villain's just evil because they're evil. It's like, no, this guy actually has like a very good reason for doing what they're doing. So it's just a surprisingly good game.
Huh.
Um,
I feel like that's one of those
yeah.
games where it came out to high expectations. So with that lens
Yeah.
of hindsight of going like, it's a 2-year old game. I bought it for $10. Like, let's give it a shot. I
Yeah.
think that always sometimes that it makes things better. Just not having that fresh eyes of, oh my god, this is coming out tomorrow. Can you imagine how great? It's not great.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I got this in a humble bundle thing, so
Yeah. Yeah.
I got it with like 10 other games. But yeah, it's great. It's awesome, and a lot of Alan Wake 2 references in that game.
Oh, I love Alan Wake. Um, Mine,
Mhm.
and this could be the game that I feel like could sum up my entire year. Is Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc.
Yeah, I thought
Which
I knew that was gonna be it.
um I said this in my game of the year. I played through all 4 Danganronpa games this year. Never touched a game like this before in my life,
Yeah,
and that game blew me away.
yeah,
Just how ridiculous and cool and different and amazing, and just it's one of those things where if you've never experienced it before, just that initial time of playing it, having no clue what the hell is going on,
yeah.
and I knew very little about this game. It was one of those things I was just interested, kind of like, because I'd heard other people talk about it was good, and there's like 1 or 2 things I'd seen where it's like, that's kind of a cool idea. Like, I'm curious enough to try it, and just, oh my god, that game, just the experience of playing the first one for the first time, having no clue what you're getting into,
Yeah.
is one of those moments, like, one of those games, one of those moments where it's like, I don't know if I'll have an experience like that just because I don't think another game is going to be that weird, is going to do
Mhm.
things that way. And it has so many things that just break conventions of what you would think is going to happen in this situation, that it's incredible and it's fun and it's interesting. And it's one of those things that kind of almost, it's a visual novel. So like a good book, there are, times I was just sitting there on my Vita, just like, oh my God, like keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Keep going. It's 3 in the
Yeah.
morning and I haven't done that in a really, really long time. So, It's so good.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. That's kind of neat that you got to play through like essentially the entire series over the course of a year. I don't think I've ever done that with like any game because I think it's either I'll play the games as they come out, so it's like year after year after year.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of neat being able to do that. And I'm surprised you didn't get burned out and you still put I think 3 on your top 5.
Yeah, 3 was my number 5. I will say 2. I think I would have been higher on 2 if I didn't go back to back with them. I went pretty much like finished 1, took like a 2-week break to play something else, and then got right into 2. So I think I would have had a stronger impression of 2 if it wasn't for that back to back thing, just because you could kind of have that feeling of like, okay, I know it's coming next, and 3 does enough to differentiate itself with its ending and with a couple other things that happen that it stands apart from the other 2 really well too.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right. Our last just kind of category type discussion is the best level from this year. From any game that came out, any level, sequence, chapter, whatever the game defines it as, just that scene in a game that blew you away this year.
Yeah. Mine is I think as a level mechanically it's not super interesting, but just as a what the hell is going on, I'm gonna call it that one scene in Mario Odyssey near the end. Not the ending. I think the ending's okay, but there's that one scene and that one level that is awesome.
Where you take control of that one character, correct?
Oh no. Actually, I'm saying before that. It's really hard to talk about.
What world is it in?
It takes unexpected influences from games I was not expecting.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Yes, yes. It's about 3/4 of the way through. There's something to do with a castle on that level, it kind of looks like.
Yeah.
Your ship might crash, and we'll kind of leave it there.
I'll just leave it there. But yeah, no, I think I think that just sort of, I guess in the context of that game without spoiling, I think it's just a kind of sets that tone of Mario Odyssey where there's always the unexpected. And I just wasn't expecting that. And I think throughout that game has a lot of surprises. I think that's probably the biggest one. Maybe not the biggest one, but I think it's definitely it's one of those things where like you didn't have expectations for that thing to begin with, so when it came around, you're like, oh shit, wow, okay, I guess we're doing this now.
Yeah, it very much really it's very much one of those things that this is a Mario game. What are you doing right now? Why is this in here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's kind of the feeling you get, and it does come kind of way out of nowhere for that scene, and it is a really cool scene. It's one of the I did the same thing. It's like, what the hell? Like, am I actually doing this right now?
Yeah,
which is a cool feeling to have.
Yeah.
Mine also comes from Mario Odyssey. Different scene though. This is the end of New Donk City, and it goes to that trailer song, and it's one of the just biggest smiles I think I've ever had playing a game. It's just going through that with the band playing the song and just everything you're doing. You know, again, trying to avoid spoilers as much as I can if you haven't played Mario, but just, you know, coming back to that trailer song that kind of really got people curious about this game, and seeing all the nostalgia throwbacks and having it just run through this whole world in this cool way. It's just one of those scenes where you're just like, oh my gosh, like this is just fun and happy, and it's just so cool.
Yeah, it's a really clever use of like nostalgia too. More so than like most Mario games. I think that was probably the most clever and interesting nostalgia play I think they do in that game.
For sure.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the end of our categories.
Yep.
Which means it's time to decide our game of the year. Which normally this comes down to being a big argument between like Rocket League and Until Dawn, and can Doug legitimately say our game of the year is PlayStation VR and me be okay with that? But this year I think it's going to be a little bit more civil, because I think right now we can initially just cut it down to, is it Mario, Zelda, or Horizon?
Okay. Well, we can cut it down to, is it Mario or Zelda? No, we can cut it down to, we can cut out Zelda.
I assumed I was not going to convince you with Zelda, so I'm fine with ditching that one. So basically this comes down to an argument of Horizon or Mario.
Yeah.
So if you haven't watched our top 5, Mario was my favorite game. Horizon was my second favorite game.
Yeah.
Horizon was Doug's favorite game. Mario was, I believe, your third favorite game.
Yeah.
So both games great.
Yeah.
I honestly just think we're going to go with Horizon.
Probably. Yeah. I was like,
I'm trying to frame this in a discussion, and I really can't, because I think you're going to say one thing for Horizon, and you're like, yep, I agree. Horizon's great.
Yeah, it's not that Mario isn't great. I mean, I like it a lot. I think I said before, I got a little burned out when trying to do some of the end game stuff, which kind of like soured my opinion on it. But I mean, it's still a fucking awesome game.
Oh
Like
yeah.
some of my favorite scenes for like from like the year were from that game. It had a really cool conclusion. Had a lot of just neat hidden surprise and stuff like that. Um, yeah, I mean, Horizon has giant robot
Yeah.
dinosaurs.
And cool, crazy sci-fi future stories.
Yep.
And yeah, it's hard to argue with. I put Mario above it in my own personal list just because Mario to me was just that fun, amazing game. But I think I said in my top five, like I would, if you told me the game of the year is Zelda, thumbs up. You told me the game of the year is Horizon, great. You told me the game of the year is Mario, fantastic. Because
Yeah.
depending on the day, I could easily make a case for any of them. So I think Horizon though, for the course of the year total, and I think
Yeah.
between the two of us is I think the game that we definitely talked about the most. And I think that's the game
Yeah.
that comes up the most. And I think that's the game that really has parts that stick out in your mind in terms of what it does with its world, what it does with its story, what it does with its gameplay.
Yeah.
Mario and Zelda are, I think, borderline just perfect versions of what those franchises have tried to do and have done over the past couple decades.
Yeah.
But Horizon has that. This is going to be a game that, as big new AAA games come out, is going to be the measuring stick. It's the game that you look
Yeah.
back and go, yep, okay, Red Dead Redemption, you did an open world, but did you see Horizons? Are you better
Yeah.
than Horizons? Okay, you're doing a futuristic sci-fi story, but do you compare with how Horizon did it? And I think that to me is I think a good quality for the best game of 2017.
Yeah, and I think it has less caveats with like than Mario and Zelda. I think just like overall, it just excelled in all of these different ways. While I feel like Mario and Zelda excelled in very specific ways, but has like some Mario doesn't have as many weaknesses I think as Zelda does. But I think like it's essentially like everything Horizon does is a nine. Mario and Zelda do a lot of tens, and a lot of things are just not up to snuff quite yet. Um,
I'll
like in
agree
terms
with Zelda and disagree with Mario, but
All
that's
right. Well, I will agree to disagree. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm not, don't want to dump on either game, but yeah, yeah, I totally agree with everything you said. I really like. I think the most surprising part of that story was just I think that game in general was you had these wild expectations for it, and especially with like the first trailer they showed,
oh yeah.
and it met and or exceeded those.
Yeah, and I think it was either our review or a spoiler cast. We just started the conversation with let's look at the first trailer and see how that compared to what actually happened. And it's
Yeah,
that 2-year-old trailer, and it's shot for shot out of the game almost. And it's
yeah.
you came through and everything you promised initially, which is something that doesn't happen in video games very often.
Yeah, because I think for a long time when we were looking at Horizon, we just thought it's like it can't be that good. It cannot be what they're selling, and that's like one of the few things where like from day one to the final release of that game, that was what it was the entire time, and it was just surprising how good that game was, and it met wild expectations.
Yeah,
Well, I think like yeah, Zelda and Mario were maybe expected to. I think everybody was kind of saying Horizon probably wouldn't be that good. It just turned out to be that good, and I think that was just really awesome.
yeah, and I think that's like what we said with Chrono Break, where you have all these ideas built up in your mind, and very rarely does something hit that. And normally
Yeah,
you can go back and appreciate it, but very rarely do you have all those things built up in your mind, and you can just go, "That story is as good as I thought it was going to be. That gameplay is as fun as I thought it was going to be. Those dinosaurs are as cool looking as I thought it was going to be."
hmm
And it just checked all those boxes for everything that you had in your mind when it came out.
yeah.
But all right, well, it's 2018, 15 days into it, so no more talking about 2017.
No, I mean it's good we let it rest a little bit before we went into our top fives and everything.
Yeah, but anyway, any other thoughts for 2017?
I think it was really I think everybody got a game they wanted. I would say that like if you are a person I think a lot of people like overall is the best thing ever. I think I only had a small handful of games that I really, really enjoyed, but those games I really enjoyed. I think it's like everybody got something they wanted this year. Whether or not every single game catered to your taste, there was at least one awesome game that did. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind
I
of my
can see that.
thoughts.
Every name a genre, if that's your genre, there is a game that you could justifiably slot into the top 10 of that style of game of all time from this
Yeah,
year, I think, which I think normally you get one or two of those games where you can argue for that. Oh yeah, that might be one of the top 10 first-person shooters ever. That might be one of the top 10 RPGs ever. It's very rare that you could go, you know what? we had a top 10 action RPG. We probably had a top 10 platformer. We had, all this stuff. So
Yeah.
good year.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are Workforce Gaming. You can follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. Subscribe to us on YouTube or Twitter or wherever else you happen to be listening. And we will see you later.
Bye.